Ni hao, my name is Rachel. Welcome to the first episode of Hong Kong Cantonese for complete beginners. This is a video series where I teach you the most basic fundamental Cantonese knowledge that you need to start to learn Cantonese. So this is perfect for people with zero prior knowledge. This is episode 1, pronouns and common phrases in basic sentence structures. So let's get started. There are things that we need to keep in mind before we get started actually. So there are two kind of systems of writing in Cantonese, Hong Kong Cantonese. So in Hong Kong, obviously, we use Fan Tai Zi, which is traditional Chinese characters. And also there's an unofficial romanization system called Yut Ping. So as you can see, the front part is the pronunciation, and then the little number here are the tones. Now, it's totally up to you if you want to learn Fan Tai Zi or just Yut Ping, but there are pros and cons, and I'm here to provide you with them so that you can make the best decision for yourself and for your needs. So for Yut Ping, the pros are that obviously it's easier to read because it's, alphabets. But the cons is that a lot of words have the same pronunciation but different Fan Tai Zi. So a lot of the characters, they'll look the same in Yut Ping but not in Fan Tai Zi, causing confusion sometimes in people. And local Hong Kong people who know how to read Fan Tai Zi usually are not extremely familiar with this Yut Ping system because we never had to learn it. So if you were to communicate like on a text using Yut Ping, it might be a little bit challenging. So Fan Tai Zi, Chinese characters, traditional Chinese characters. The pros are that obviously if you learn Fan Tai Zi, you can read signs on the road or read menus and stuff, and you won't be confused with like similar words that have same pronunciation but different words obviously. But the cons is obviously it's extremely time consuming to learn and it takes a lot of dedication. So from my experience, most of my students don't learn traditional characters, Fan Tai Zi. They speak just fine with just learning Yut Ping, but it's totally up to you and your needs. So I'm here to provide you with both, and all my slides will have both Yut Ping and Fan Tai Zi. Okay. So today's learning agenda, we'll learn the basic pronouns in Cantonese, and then common introductory phrases, so how to introduce yourself and stuff like that, and we'll learn how to form some basic questions. Okay. So first, let's take a look at the pronouns. So here, me and I or I, 我 you, 你 he or she or it, they're the same. 佢 we and us, 我哋 So notice how we just added a they next to 我, which is me here. So according to that logic, we can say that you all would be 你哋. So from 你, adding a they, 你哋. And then 佢becomes, they or them becomes 佢哋. Okay? So here is where when a lot of people ask me, hey, why do I hear native speakers say 我 instead of 我 and 你 instead of 你? So that's a very good question. It's something called 懶音, which means lazy sounds. So this takes a little effort to pronounce. So a lot of native speakers just resort to 我, which is easier to pronounce than 我. But obviously I teach Cantonese, so I want to provide the correct way for you guys. And it's totally up to you however you want to pronounce it. People will definitely understand you if you say 我 and 你 instead of 我 and 你. So this ng sound confused a lot of people. If you want to pronounce it, try imagine when you initiate the sound, stick the back of your tongue to the roof of your mouth while the tip of your tongue stays put like on the bottom of your mouth. Ngọ, ngọ. It's not no, no. When you pronounce no, your tip of the tongue is on the roof of your mouth, which is not correct. So the back of the tongue on the roof of your mouth. Ngọ. This takes time, so don't worry about it if you don't get it the first try. So now let's look at some common phrases here. 早晨, good morning. 早晨. We usually say 早晨 when we see each other in the morning. Also there's 你好. 你好 means hello. And here we have another type of phrases. 你好嗎, which is how are you? 你好嗎? And then a response will be 我好,你呢? 我好,你呢? I'm good, what about you? Or I'm good, and you? And then to that you can say 我都好,多謝. 我都好,多謝. The reason why this is framed up here is because in reality, in Hong Kong at least, people never say these things. So it surprises a lot of people, but we don't say how are you. It's not because we're rude, it's not in our culture. We're not the biggest fan of small talks. So you'll hear a lot of 早晨. 早晨, good morning. You might also occasionally hear 你好. And obviously you can say these, right? I mean, you can say all of them, but just note that people, like at least local people, they don't really say 你好嗎,我好,你呢? So these things we don't really say. But it's good to know, right? Okay, so more common phrases would be 唔該,唔該 means thank you or excuse me. And then another type of thank you is 多謝,多謝. So people get thrown off by why is there two thank yous? So 唔該 is more used when someone does you a favor. Or for example, someone pass you the salt, you say 唔該. But then 多謝 is used for gifts, compliments, and wishes. So for example, if someone says, oh, safe travels, you say 多謝. Or 生日快樂, happy birthday, you say 多謝. Or someone gives you a gift, you say 多謝. And 唔該 can also be excuse me. So if you want to grab someone's attention, you can say, oh, 唔該, and then say whatever you need to say. So these are the two types of thank yous. And then to respond, you can say 唔使客氣. 唔使客氣 means no need to be polite, no need to be respectful, I guess. But you can also say 唔使, no need. Like when someone say, oh, 唔該, you can say 唔使, 唔該, 唔使, or 多謝, 唔使. So these are the variations of ways that you can respond to. It's like you're welcome. And a similar one with excuse me would be 唔好意思, 唔好意思. And then 對唔住 is sorry, 對唔住. So they both mean sorry, but this one is more severe. It's like if you did something wrong, you would say 對唔住. it means I can't face you, really. But if you like bumped into someone, or if you like a little small thing, you can simply say 唔好意思, 唔好意思. And then to respond to 唔好意思 or 對唔住, you can say 唔緊要, 唔緊要. No worries, no problem. Okay, so now we're moving on to questions. So to ask what someone's name is, you can say 你叫咩名? 你叫咩名? So let's break it down. 你, we learned this one. It's the pronoun you. 叫 is to be called. 咩 is right here. 咩 is what. Is a question word, what. And then 名 is name. You called what name? 你叫咩名? And then to respond, you can say 我叫 Rachel. 我叫 Rachel. Or you can say 我係 Rachel. 係 means is or am or are. Is MR, they're the same. 係. So you can either say I'm called Rachel, 我叫 Rachel, or 我係 Rachel. I'm Rachel. Okay, so asking where someone is from. 你係邊度人? 你係邊度人? So note that in your ping, the word J is kind of pronounced as Y in English. 你係邊度人? So we learned 你, which is you. 係, remember the previous slide, is or am or are. 邊度, here is the question word that means where. So 人 is people or human. So you are where person. 你係邊度人? Where you're from. To respond, you can say 我係 insert your country and then 人. For example, 我係香港人. 我係香港人. I'm a Hong Kong person. So to answer questions in Cantonese with question words is actually fairly simple. There are 3 steps. The first step is you change the pronoun to whatever it needs to be. Obviously, if I'm asking you, your pronoun should be me when you respond, which is 我, right? So you can see here, became 我. And then secondly, identify the question word. Here in this question, the question word is 邊度, right? Which means where. But when you answer a question, you don't really need to say the question word, right? So we cancel it out, substitute it with your answer, which is, my answer is 香港, Hong Kong. Substitute it with 香港. And then the rest just repeat. So when you answer a question, change the pronoun, take out the question word, substitute it with your answer. Everything else remains unchanged. So 我係香港人. 我係香港人. Later on, when you see more complex questions, you'll see that the patterns are more or less the same. So another new pattern is 你有冇? 你有冇 something? Do you have? Or if you want to say, oh, is there or are there, is there a bathroom? Just say without the pronoun, 有冇 something, is there something. So let's break it down. Obviously, 你, again pronoun you. 有 means to have. 有 is to have. And then 冇 is not to have. Not to have. Lack. So as you can see here, when we ask a yes or no question in Cantonese, basically we're giving the person who answered a choice. You either 有 have or 冇 don't have. So for example, siblings is 兄弟姊妹. 兄弟姊妹. So if you want to ask if someone has siblings, it would be 你有冇兄弟姊妹? 你有冇兄弟姊妹? So this is a little quiz with answers. Asking, does he have pets? So let's see. Refresher, 佢 is the pronoun for he. And then 寵物 is pet. So to ask, does he have pets? First we put the pronouns 佢. And then yes or no. 有冇 and then pet 寵物. 佢有冇寵物? 佢有冇寵物? To answer, he does have pets. 佢有寵物. Remember how 有 means to have? 佢有寵物. Or you can say 佢冇寵物. 冇 means does not have. 佢冇寵物. Okay, another type of yes and no, like confirmation, is 唔係 and 係. So I'll explain. There's no one way to say yes or no in Cantonese. Instead, we follow the A, not A pattern. What does that mean? So, like I said, we're giving the answerer a choice. So, we'll see later on what I mean. 係 means, remember from the 我係 Rachel, 我係香港人. 係 means is or am or are. And then we have this prefix that negates things. So 唔係 means it's not. It's not. So for example, if you want to ask if someone is Rachel, 你 pronoun 係 you are, or 唔係 Rachel. So that's the A, not A pattern. 你係唔係 Rachel? Are you Rachel? So we're giving the answer a choice. You either 係 or you 唔係, right? So your answers would be 我係 Rachel. I am Rachel. Or 我唔係 Rachel. So negates the 係. So am not. 我唔係 Rachel. So I know this can be a little bit complicated, but later on in the series we'll dive deeper into how to say yes and no in Cantonese. It's actually fairly simple. It's just a different system from English, so sometimes people get intimidated, but it's fairly simple. Okay. So again, if you want to say yes or no, there's no one way to say it. It depends on the verb, right? So 想 is to want, And then to negate it, it'll be 唔想, don't want. Remember, 唔 is negate things. 想, 唔想. So if you're asking someone if they want something, you would say 你想唔想, and then whatever you want to say, right? So here's an example. 食 is to eat. 蘋果 is apple. So if you want to ask, do you want to eat apples? First we have pronoun 你, and then we give choices 想唔想, and then 食蘋果 eat apple. 你想唔想食蘋果？你想唔想食蘋果？ So later on in the series, we'll dive deeper into how to form questions. So don't worry too much about it for now if you think it's quite complicated. Okay, so now that we have learned some of the basics of Cantonese, let's move on to some practice questions. So first question, let's try to ask someone's name. What are you called? So that's 你叫咩名？你叫咩名？ So how would you answer that? It can be 我叫 Rachel or 我係 Rachel. So I'm called versus I am. Okay? So next up, asking someone where they're from. Where are you from? How would you ask that? It's 你係邊度人？你係邊度人？ So your answer would be, remember, replace the pronoun, cancel out the question word, which is 邊度, sub in your answer. So your answer would be 我係 something 人. So in my case, 我係香港人. Okay. Third question. Asking in Cantonese, do you have kids? So kids is 小朋友. 小朋友. How would you ask that? Do you have kids? It is 你有冇小朋友? So sorry about the confusion here with J and Y. It's because there's the official Yutping system. They use J as to pronounce Y. But me personally, I like it when it's Y. So when I type it myself, I just type Y. So sorry about the confusion. Sorry. So it will be 你有冇 you have, don't have, A not A, 小朋友你有冇小朋友? So how can we respond both cases? That I have kids and I don't have kids. Try that. So it would be 我有小朋友 for I have kids. 我有小朋友 versus 我冇小朋友 I don't have kids. 我冇小朋友. Okay, that's it for episode 1. I hope you guys found it helpful. I hope you guys learned something from it. If you have any ideas of future topics, please feel free to leave it in the comments down below. You can check out my website, CantoneseAfterHours.com. There I have some blog posts as well as information of private tutoring there on my website. And I hope to see you guys soon.